So today I wanted to do a read. Bitcoin Magazine was nice enough to feature me in their magazine, and they put together some really amazing pieces in this Gatekeepers issue. And I think I'm going to read a couple of these stories, but I wanted to start with mine. A Language Without Gatekeepers. Language is the foundation of human culture and society. It is the most powerful tool we have for communicating ideas and expressing our desires. Words are constantly changing and being updated as technology advances, which is a net positive. The printing press allowed the common man to increase his education tenfold. It also led to revolutions as more people became educated and questioned the legitimacy of their rulers. As society continues to improve, it is important to be cautious of words losing their meanings. No one will benefit from the mass destruction of our modern-day world. In our current attention economy, it is easy to exaggerate words. For example, if everyone is a fascist, the word fascist very quickly loses its meaning as a legitimate way to point out authoritarian dictators who believe they have the right to arbitrarily make any demand on their citizens. They are undoubtedly malicious actors who aim to make sure that the majority of the world cannot agree on the definition of basic words. The ability to use language to share ideas and articulate desires has enabled individuals to stand up for their rights and make their voices heard. Our words build on each other and have led to the creation of important documents such as the Magna Carta, the U.S. Constitution, and Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper. All of these documents are examples of words being used to help preserve the rights and freedoms of the individual. There are also many cases of words being used to manipulate and control people. Censorship is a complex and ongoing issue that sits between the rights of the individual and the needs of the state. In recent years, there has been a push to censor certain topics, which goes against the principles of free speech and expression enshrined in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The success of the U.S. Constitution can be attributed to its design of decentralizing power. By implementing checks and balances to prevent any one individual or branch of government from accumulating too much power, the system has served as a model for other countries while contributing to the stability and prosperity of the United States. With the advent of modern technology, there are concerns that the current regime may be seeking to centralize power within the U.S. government. This could potentially undermine the principles of our Constitution and the checks and balances that have been instrumental in maintaining the integrity of the Republic. Preserving the rights and freedoms of the individual is vital for our democracy to function properly. We must remain vigilant if we want to ensure that the decentralization of power is preserved and upheld. While not perfect, the United States has done an incredible job since its birth in 1776 of creating fair rules for people to participate in a free market. Our capitalistic society, with mostly free market dynamics, has offered entrepreneurs an opportunity to build a life of wealth by providing value. The American dream, if you will. Over time, this free market dynamic has turned into crony capitalism as the Federal Reserve monopolized credit and started to bail out entities it deemed too big to fail. In doing so, it hindered the free market's ability to operate. Central banks have given the green light to major financial institutions that they can privatize gains among themselves while socializing any losses onto the taxpayer. This is wrong. Despite all these problems, the United States will still end up as one of the wealthiest countries on the planet, if not the wealthiest. No one truly knows what a world would look like if everyone was playing a fair game. Our current system is designed to enrich those highest up. If we took away the ability to print money, society would optimize for providing the most value possible at the lowest cost. When certain entities can print money while others cannot, a majority of people act as parasitic middlemen, positioning themselves close to the money printer rather than trying to become productive members of society. When Nakamoto created Bitcoin, they gave humanity a fair game that no one could cheat to enrich themselves. No longer does society have to rely on a corrupt system that is addicted to printing money, because without this drug, the deflation that technology brings about would cause the system's collapse. The relationship between the state and the individual can be complex. Depending on where you are born, the state will almost certainly end up imposing taxes on your income and property, as well as regulating behavior through laws and policies that may not always align with your personal beliefs or values. This can lead to a lack of trust in the government. In the U.S., individuals are required to pay various taxes, such as property taxes on land they own, income taxes on their earnings, and inheritance taxes when they wish to pass wealth down to their families. This is a bit ironic considering we became a nation after our founding fathers had decided that there would be no taxation without representation. A lot has changed since 1776, and now there's even an exit tax for wealthy individuals who renounce their U.S. citizenships. While these taxes are meant to fund government services and programs, they can be a major source of frustration, especially when you consider that in the United States we have the power to print the global reserve currency. Politicians often promise we can fix the system if we just tax the rich, but this ignores that wealthy individuals seek the help of accountants and lawyers to minimize their tax burdens. The tax code is complex, so those who make the rules can game the system. It is important for the government to ensure that its tax policies are fair and equitable, to build trust with its citizens by being transparent and accountable. If taxes were openly debated and decided upon by taxpayers, it is possible that a more fair and equitable tax system, such as a flat tax, could be implemented. Under a flat tax system, all taxpayers would pay the same percentage of their income in taxes, regardless of their income levels. This would eliminate the need for a complex tax code with different rates for different types of income and would reduce the burden of compliance on taxpayers. It would also help shrink government spending, as they wouldn't need to hire an additional 87,000 IRS agents to prosecute those who can't afford a lawyer to defend themselves from Uncle Sam. I understand it is not an easy job trying to balance the needs of the government with taxpayers' ability to pay. By allowing taxpayers to have a say in the tax system, there is a greater likelihood that it will be viewed as legitimate and fair rather than a complete monstrosity that for some reason we are not taught about in public school. Unfortunately, it seems there is currently little political will among those in power to implement a policy like this. Thus, the decentralization of power through open source software and networks like Bitcoin can provide individuals with greater autonomy and control over their lives. This new system will facilitate the spread of ideas, including those outlined in the U.S. Constitution, around the world. The United States, with its tradition of private property and wealth creation, serves as a beacon of hope for many people. The government is there to protect private property and individual rights. This was best accomplished by the United States for a long time, but recent years have shown an erosion of the principles that made America great. Luckily, under a Bitcoin standard, individuals don't have to rely on anyone if they secure their private keys properly, meaning government might not be as necessary. If people are able to protect their private property without the need for a government, it raises questions about the legitimacy of the state's actions, such as the imposition of taxes that take a significant portion of wealth from the population without providing sufficient value in return. The decision by the United States to go off the gold standard in 1971 marked a significant shift in the relationship between money and reality. Without the constraint of a fixed exchange rate with gold, the value of money became more susceptible to manipulation. When money becomes manipulated, so does everything else. Since the world went off the gold standard, there have been numerous examples of governments attempting to centralize power and impose mandates without engaging in open debate and justification of its actions. A great example is the United States telling Edward Snowden, who exposed the illegal surveillance practices of the National Security Agency against U.S. citizens, that he was exiled for his actions. The state was the guilty party, yet Snowden was the one who ended up being prosecuted. This should raise questions about the nature of the state's relationship with the people it governs. The state should act as a responsible arbiter of law for its citizens. The state should not be acting as a helicopter parent. A good parent will help their child grow and develop into sovereign individuals. A healthy parent-child relationship is based on trust, mutual respect, and a sense of interdependence, with both parties benefiting from the relationship. In contrast, a relationship marked by abuse and control can prevent individuals from reaching their full potential and becoming productive members of society. When the state gets in the way of productive individuals, it destroys value for the economy. It is important for the state to respect the autonomy and dignity of its citizens and to work toward building a relationship of trust and mutual benefit. History has shown us that this power often gets corrupted when an empire loses sight of what made it great. Taking an objective look at the relationship between the state and the individual is difficult, even in the United States, which has some of the best property rights in the world. We are currently dealing with an abusive relationship. If you think that the Watchmen are going to fix the mess they made, I have a bridge to sell you, and yes, I accept Bitcoin. Jokes aside, we should not accept this relationship. We should demand that the government stop spending money it doesn't have and get out of the way of entrepreneurs trying to impose the lives of others. There's no shame in working hard to build a business that provides people with value so those business owners can profit and build lives full of abundance for themselves. For this to take place, people need a guarantee that their property rights are not going to be violated by the institution that is responsible for upholding these rights. The world is lucky that Nakamoto figured out a way to grant property rights to every single individual through the Bitcoin network. With a 12 or 24 word seed phrase, anyone can take their private property anywhere in the world, an incredible accomplishment that empowers individuals to break away from tyrannical governments. The more people who adopt this technology, the more expensive it becomes for tyranny to take place. I often take for granted the words written in the U.S. Constitution, but without them, I would not have the confidence to write this essay due to concerns about being thrown in jail or prosecuted for the thought crime of criticizing my own government. If words weren't so powerful, there wouldn't be a push by the gatekeepers of the world to censor certain topics. Next time someone tells you that your words aren't powerful, remind them that words are the base layer of a functioning society. Thanks to Nakamoto, we now have a base layer that anyone can use without a gatekeeper. That's the end of the article. I mean, it just goes back to first principles about incentives. What you incentivize is typically what the outcome is going to be in most cases, especially on a macro level. If there is not an incentive to acquire more private property, more wealth, more value for yourself, because it's clear the government will just take that away the second you get any decent amount of private property for yourself, well, then the vast majority of people are just going to say, screw this, and they're going to be lazy. I mean, we see that with any type of socialism and communism, is that the incentives in the end just lead to the population essentially voting themselves all the money and then society collapsing because no one wants to work. No one wants to provide value because private property is not protected. What incentive do I have to work hard if all the wealth and value I create is just going to be distributed to everyone else? I need to know that I can keep the wealth and value I create. And that's what I try to get across with this piece. I'm so grateful that Satoshi was able to come up with a system that doesn't have a certain group of individuals that can just print money out of thin air, because I think it distorts so much stuff. And it's hard to see that distortion without really digging in to why these things are taking place. But I mean, seriously, just have a thought experiment with me. If you could print money out of thin air and pay people to do your bidding, you don't think that would mess with the market? If you could just literally snap your fingers, have $1 million, and then go out in the market and interfere. If you had the ability to print money, I mean, you could do nearly anything. You could buy the services, the goods, the products that most people in the world provide. And I mean, that's what we have with fiat currency. We have people who can print money out of thin air. So appreciate Bitcoin Magazine for giving me the platform. And I'm going to read some more of these because there are some incredible pieces in here.